Hi, everyone. My name is Lydia Creasy with Remax Alliance and Lydia's home team. And we are here tonight to really highlight a lot of Jim's expertise with fixing and flipping properties and investment properties. Probably just going to give it a couple seconds for a few more people to jump on. But we are super excited to chat with you guys tonight. While we're getting started and just kind of getting settled in, I wanted to just take a minute to highlight and introduce ourselves. Many of you may have worked with us in the past, so welcome and thanks for being here. But if you're new to working with us, our group is Lydia's Home Team, comprised of 3 agents: myself, Jim, and Sherry. And then we also have Alyssa, who is our office manager, who just keeps us all on track. So tonight, as we get started, we're going to talk a lot about Jim's expertise, like I mentioned. However, I just wanted to take a minute to also highlight the fact that, whether you're thinking about this for investment properties or for other reasons, we've been able to, really learn from his skill set and take this knowledge into a lot of our listings, being able to go into a listing, whether it's an estate sale or a property that's distressed, or maybe it needs a moderate amount of work, and just really be able to bring it up to market, bring it up to the highest potential to maximize the selling price for our sellers. We've also had several situations where we've been able to help buyers who maybe didn't necessarily have the vision, or they were struggling to get properties on the open market. We've been able to find some properties off market and help them be able to kind of take this and put it into action for themselves. And then Jim's going to talk obviously about traditional fix and flips, and then fixing and holding as a rental property, or either to fix and hold to live in the property as well. So more to come, but that's just a quick introduction, and I'll hand it off to Jim.
All right, thank you. So just a quick little highlight here. There's a lot to cover in this. I mean, people spend hours and lots of money to go through courses to learn how to do these things. So this is very much just an overview. But at the same time, we want to give you guys some value and some kind of ways to think outside the box. 'Cause there's a lot of different ways to look at it when it comes to affordability. Trying to get into a certain neighborhood, and finding a house that's maybe not up to par to get top of market value, but how you can get in there and make it your own home, or create wealth through real estate through fixing and flipping, getting a rental property, that sort of thing. So just kind of some points we're going to go over here. First thing comes down to research and analyzing the property, making sure all the numbers are right and that the house is going to work for your goals. How to obtain financing, then acquiring the property, and then breaking it down kind of into the renovation and designing, the nuts and bolts of that to some degree. And then, if it is one that's going to go on the market, best ways that we can help you market and sell that property. And then just kind of finalizing the whole renovation, whether you're selling it, keeping it, renting it. And then finally, just kind of an after action type of look at the project afterwards, what you can learn from, just kind of reviewing how everything went from, the work, the contractors, the budget. There's a lot of moving parts to it. So wrap it up with that. So a few strategies just to start. Like I said, a fix and flip, basically probably seen it on all the home shows out there and everything else, where somebody buys a distressed property, renovate it, make it all nice and new to get top of market value, put it on the market, and flip it into somebody's dream home. That's probably the top thing that happens with distressed properties out there. Another one, the BRRRR method. BRRRR stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. So basically, this is a good goal to get something with no money out of pocket. So you can find a house at the right price, you buy it, either cash, hard money, private money, anything like that. Do the whole renovation, and then rent it, get a whole lease on it, and then you can go back to the bank, refinance it out of that hard money loan, or to pay back the cash, to pay back the investor, whatever it is, at 80% loan to value. So hopefully any money that you tied up in there gets eaten up in that 80%. So you still have no money out of pocket. And then you can get a regular investor rate, with 20% down, and then get it refinanced that way. And then the final R is the repeat, which, you get one on your belt and keep doing it. And it's a good way to build a lot of wealth, through real estate. doing it that way without any money out of your own pocket if you do it right. So, and the third method we're going to talk about or strategy is a live and flip, really. Just buying a house that's distressed, and everybody's situation is different. Some people would obviously need to move in, right when they close on that house. Other people might have a little bit of wiggle room in there for a few months to get it ready, or maybe renovate, one living area, move in, and then come up with a plan for the rest. But there are some good strategies out there to get into um, the house that you want in the area that you want, and then really who cares how ugly it is because you're going to renovate it and make it, exactly what you want. You get to pick all the designs and all the choices and everything. So that's a great plan as well. And like I said before on that, if somebody's looking in a neighborhood that they can't afford, but they can find a house at a lot lower price because it needs all that love. It's a good way to get in there and then just kind of put your own sweat equity into it and a few extra dollars and make it what you want. So when it comes down to researching and analyzing the property, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Most people know where they want to be, even if as an investor, some people are out there and they'll take anything, or obviously in the Denver metro area here, there's people who'll go anywhere from, Castle Rock all the way up to Fort Collins, and we'll take anything that if the numbers are right. I'm a little bit more specific. I like to stay in the area a little closer to home here, just for all the trips to the house that it takes and everything. It's a lot easier to keep the project um, in a central location, but at the same time, if there's a great deal out there that's worth a few extra miles that you need to drive, then it's worth it as well. But either way, whether you're looking for the deal in a certain spot or if somebody comes to you with a deal, wherever it might be, there's a good amount of market research that needs to be done on that house, just so you know all the numbers. A lot of things that you'll hear investors talk about is ARV, which stands for after repair value, which really is the top of market value, and that's the ultimate goal when doing fix and flip. So you take that number and really just a basic formula that a lot of investors shoot for is getting that for 70%, the buying it at 70% of that ARV. And that'll usually match up with the numbers for what you need to buy the place, any cost for money for hard money loan, which is a little higher interest, or private money, and then obviously the renovation costs, and then enough wiggle room in there to work in some profit when it's all said and done. So once you get all that done, where you want to be, or you found out where the house is, and the numbers make sense. A lot of times there's different ways that these houses will come to people. There's a lot of wholesalers out there. If you're not familiar with that, what that is, if you think of, all the ads that you've seen for companies like We Buy Ugly Houses, that's all wholesalers where they'll come into a house. Usually it's one of two or a combination thereof of a distressed seller and or a distressed property where somebody either needs to get rid of a house for financial reasons, medical reasons, whatever it might be, or the house is in such poor condition they just can't take on fixing it up for where it needs to be to hit the open market. So a lot of times people will go to these wholesalers. Wholesalers then have a list of buyers, a whole buyer list that they have of different investors and people looking for properties. So they'll make a deal with the seller. Let's say they're buying a house for 385,000. They'll go to their buyer's list and say, "Hey, I got this house for 400,000." So they're making, a $10 or $15,000 wholesale fee in there. But then the investor's still getting it at a good deal. The seller's taken care of for the most part because they're getting rid of the house. It always comes to them saying, "Hey, it's a cash offer. It'll close in 2 weeks. There won't be any inspection repairs. It's just a easy, no hassle deal for them to be able to get out of the house." Then there's also, the way wholesalers work is either going direct to a seller like that or the sellers contact them. There's a lot of people who go door knocking. They'll see a house, overgrown weeds, a house that obviously looks distressed from the outside, and they'll go and try to contact them. And then also, totally slipped my mind there. Yeah, and a lot of realtors, I'm sorry, that's what it is. A lot of realtors, when they go to a listing appointment and they see a house that is in need of all the repairs and doesn't really seem suitable to hit the open market, they'll call wholesalers as well and say, "Hey, what can we get for this house just to make it a hassle-free transaction?" So anyways, when it comes to the inspection, once a wholesaler contacts an investor, or if somebody knows, hey, my neighbor's dad passed away and they need to do something with this house. However, the house comes to their attention, obviously an inspection is needed. And a lot of times there's not much time for that. There's a lot of these wholesalers who will send out a house to a list of investors, and there might be 20 people, I mean, even 100 people at a showing, just kind of an open house that they'll hold. And you go and look at it, and really the first person to deliver non-refundable earnest money, usually about anywhere from 5 to 15,000, gets a house. Now, having said that, in that time that they're seeing it, in that 5 to 10 minutes, there's not a lot of time to have somebody out there and go look at everything. So that comes down to experience and just kind of looking at, the major ticket items like roofs, HVAC systems, the structural issues that you might see with the house, see different cracking and that sort of thing. Sewer line's always a good thing to get checked out, but obviously not really feasible to do it in those moments, but something to get in down the line to make sure that you're not going to end up having to spend an extra $15,000 on a sewer line, depending on how bad it might be. So a lot of times wholesalers will take care of a lot of those inspections on the big things beforehand so that investors know what they're walking into. But either way, whatever the plan is for the house, you obviously want to have a good idea of what you're walking into and not just throw some money down and end up with all the major ticket items when you weren't planning on having that in the budget. So moving into the budget, that's I always say I wish my crystal ball worked because it never does, but um, everything's gone up, right? The cost of building materials, the cost of labor, everything. So right now, after the last few projects I've done, I say I average about $40 per square foot as a final renovation cost. So 1,000 square foot house. That would be about $40,000 in renovations, and that just seems to fit the bill. It used to be like $30 when you're doing a full renovation, and obviously things have gone up. So you can't budget it just off that. It takes walking through the property. It takes, counting doors, counting cabinets, kind of getting an idea of what you're going to be spending on all those things. Countertops, flooring, what kind of flooring you want where, because that all comes at a different cost. So all things to take into consideration when budgeting. Go on to the next one here. There we go. So as part of that, when you're looking at the house, obviously local trends is a big thing, and the comparable properties that have sold in that area. That's where you're going to end up getting that ARV or after repair value from. And the trends, if there's a lot of people moving to a certain area, that's might be a higher value kind of thing. You can look at some comps, and then as you're looking at the trends in that area, you can see, okay, things are likely going to go up here. Might be worth a risk, even if you're paying a little bit more, or hey, everybody's moving out of this area, so it's not going to be worth the risk to even pay less because you got to look at the end game and what you're going to do with it, so when it comes time to sell, I always, when I'm working on one, I have a search set up in the MLS that gives me everything that comes on the market in that area, so I can keep an eye on that during the whole course of the project, just so I'm always up to date on what's selling in there, how long things are staying on the market, and everything like that. Also, when looking at the property outside of the inspection of just seeing the systems that are in place and what needs to be replaced, other opportunities to look for is, where you might be able to add square footage, where you might be able to add a bedroom, take away a bedroom, add a bathroom, all those sorts of things, and really modernize the floor plan. So many of these that come on, you hear about all the mid-century modern houses. There's a ton of houses built in the 50s when things weren't important to people back then, like walk-in closets and primary bedrooms, large bathrooms, large open kitchens, open living areas. So a lot of those homes need to be modernized, whether that's, going in that back hallway where there's always two bedrooms at the end and taking a wall down in the middle and making that a big primary suite and adding a big closet and a bathroom in there. Or whether it's taking walls down in the kitchen to really get that open floor plan. There's ways to do it. And like they always say, if you have enough time and enough money, you can make anything happen. So all things considered, it always comes down to the budget. And, you don't want to go overboard for what you're doing for a house in a specific area. But at the same time, you don't want to go way under that either because people going into a remodeled home in certain areas have expectations of what's been done, and it's going to help you get top dollar for that house. And we can always help with the market research too. So if you're ever looking at something, you think it might be a good deal or a bad deal, or you just want to get our opinion on it, we're always willing to take a look at that if you just shoot us the address and what you're kind of thinking there. Um, Kind of covered this already, just any necessary repairs, upgrades and everything. Roofs are always big deals. You always want to get those checked out, especially if it looks like the one in this picture. Even I can tell that's a bad roof. Budgeting, covered a little bit of this already. So you got the purchase price. Like I said, you want to start with your goal, like what you're going to sell it for, right? So if you're buying a house in an area, you're like, okay, this should be worth 500,000 when it's all said and done with. 70% of that's right at 350,000. So that's your target for your purchase price. So you want to be all in for under 350. The renovation budget then, like I said, if it's, 1,500 square foot house, at $40 a square foot, like I said, rough estimate right off the bat. I know I'm spending probably close to 60,000 on that renovation, give or take, depending on, does it need windows? Does it need a furnace, AC, roof? Is the sewer good? Does it need any foundation work? Because any of those big ticket items like that is going to come off of that 350. But a lot of times you don't know that kind of when you're walking into it. So that's where the big risk comes into these things, but um, it could also turn into a big reward too. So those latent things that you can't really see, kind of always have me holding my breath until I get the sewer line checked out and I know, okay, that's good. Get the roof inspected, that's good. Windows, you can usually tell when you're walking through. That's not a huge expense like these other items, but usually when you walk through a property, water heater, HVAC stuff, what can stay and what needs to go. Unexpected expenses that come up. Uh, there's one I did last year. We didn't get the sewer line checked until the last minute. That was my fault and lesson learned to do it earlier because I thought everything was fine, but that was an extra $8,000 at the end of a project that we weren't planning. And then a little extra concrete work that it needed there. Had another one time where had kind of a daylight basement, or garden level basement. And once the carpet was pulled up, the whole slab was just not in good shape, not good enough to put back under new carpet and sell to somebody. So, those things that come up, it is what it is. You just gotta, pay for it and move along and just make sure that you budget enough money to have a little bit of an overage and not have every dollar spoken for when you start the project. So financing, this is where things get interesting. So a lot of different ways to do this. If you ever looked at or heard of hard money lenders, that's probably the number one source of funding for fix and flips. I go through a company, they are usually about 11% interest rate, which used to seem really high, but when houses were getting 8% interest rates, that wasn't too much higher than that. But at the end of the day, it's a short-term loan. Usually they'll write it for 6 months or 1 year with no prepayment penalty. So again, you just work that into your numbers. And along with that 11%, company I usually go through only charges 1% or 1% of the loan for an origination fee. So, a $300,000 loan, it's 3,000 right off the bat, and then about almost 3,000 a month to keep that project going. So again, looking at a 3-month project, usually say 4 months because you start it, you have about 2 months of renovation time depending on the house, and then once you get on the market, usually it's 30 days once you get a contract, 30 days until closing. So 3 to 4 months total is like the goal. Try to get it done within that time. So you're looking at like $15,000 probably in that scenario for money, but that's already worked into the budget. So it doesn't have as much of a sticker shock at that point. And then there's with that hard money loan, usually they're only lending about anywhere between 70 and 90% of the loan. So if you're looking at $300,000, the most you're probably going to get out of that is about 270. So then it comes down to having another plan with that, whether you have the cash to cover that down payment plus the renovation costs, whether it's private lenders, which could be anybody from a family member to a neighbor, to a friend, to an investor. I find the more conversations you have with people around this stuff, the more willing people are to loan out their money. Which before I got into this, I thought that was crazy. Like, how do you find this money? But it's amazing how many people out there are sitting on some money that they don't want to put in the stock market or different things. A lot of people see real estate that it is, a safe investment, but at the same time, a lot of people don't want to take that risk to go out and buy the house and, go through everything that it takes to get the contractors and do everything. So a lot of times people are like, hey, yeah, I'll lend you money on that. And, there's different ways to look at that. Usually the private money that I get is usually in the range of like 2 points, because it's a little bit lesser amount of money. So you got to make it worth their while to pull it out of the bank. So 2 points, 2% of the loan, and 10% interest rate. Seems to be a pretty fair rate out there right now, when looking at that. So a lot of times I'll get the hard money loan for, I'm usually at about 85% of my purchase price. And then I'll go to a private lender and try to get the rest of that. So, a lot of times it's about 100 to $150,000 that I'm asking for, which covers the rest of the down payment and all my rehab costs. And then I'm into this thing for no money out of my own pocket. But there's people making money off that money. So it takes a little bit of that risk and stress off, but at the same time, if you ever loan me $5, like, it drives me crazy until I can pay you back that $5. So I feel a lot of stress and everything to get the project done right, to get that top of market value so that I can get anybody paid back who trusted me enough to lend me money on it. Um, so it's always a good way to do that. Other financing options, when we talk about the BRRRR, it kind of goes along that same line. We're going to get a hard money loan at the front end, but then you're going to refinance it into a traditional mortgage on the back end of that, and then pay off that hard money loan with that. And then with a live and flip, I had some clients who just did this at a house from a wholesaler that came up, and I knew they were looking for something like this. The wholesaler required a cash offer or a hard money loan. So they couldn't get their traditional mortgage because it closed in 2 weeks. So they ended up going with the lender that was able to do a cash purchase option right off the front. So pretty much that's the bank buying it for cash and then working with the buyers at that point to get them refinanced on the whole thing into a traditional primary residence mortgage. I think the cost for that, between all the different fees that they had, I think they were out about $10,000 out of pocket to make that work, which was great because they were able to secure the house and it wasn't going to slip away. They protected their earnest money through it by getting it done with a deal that worked for them. And, you know, to get things done at a moment's notice through a wholesaler or anybody where something needs to close within 2 weeks, it's hard to get a traditional mortgage in that time. There's different, inspections at appraisal and that sort of thing that the bank's going to rely on. So a lot of homes won't qualify for that, but this will give some time in a situation like that for any repairs to be made, right off the front end so that they can get that mortgage and then just get back to the cosmetic stuff that it needs to make their house their home. So it's kind of everything in a nutshell there as far as financing goes. Again, every situation is different. We work with a lot of different people between hard money lenders, regular lenders, and all that sort of thing that I think for any situation that somebody comes to us with, we have enough people in that side of the world dealing with lending that we can find the right situation for you. All right, and then acquisition. So you've seen the property, kind of done your inspection as you walked around, see what it needs, come up with a rough budget, make sure you have more than enough to cover that budget, figure out the financing, where the money's going to come from. And then, it's time to close. Like I said, most of these close within 2 weeks, which seems real fast sometimes, and kind of gets scary, but at the same time, it's exciting. And you're coming up with a plan during that and getting things lined up. And then with that plan, sometimes you need permits. If you're buying a fix and flip and it's not your primary residence, you can't just go get a homeowner's permit from the city or county. That's only good on your primary residence. So if you have to finish a basement, you're gonna have to get a general contractor to go pull that permit for you. So when doing the budgets on these things, I always act as my own GC or project manager, where I have a whole bunch of different subcontractors for every kind of trade. I call them, I get them all scheduled and lined up, and then I go buy all my own materials and deliver those to the house so that I'm not paying somebody else to do it. Things like cabinets and doors and trim, all that gets delivered from the place I buy it from. But everything else, tile, flooring, all the plumbing and electrical pieces, whatever it is, lighting, I bring all that, to the house whenever that trade's coming to do the work. Because because I find that saves me money and not paying somebody else to do that and just let them focus on their work, and that's what I'm paying them for. So there is always the option to hire a GC or project manager, which usually charges anywhere from 15 to 25% of the full project cost. So if you're, spending $60,000 on the whole project, you might be paying them up to about 15,000, just for them to handle it, which for some people that's great and it's worth it. But maybe not for everybody. So there's always an option for how to get that all done. But when it comes down to permits, for a house that's not going to be your primary residence, it would need to be a GC that would need to pull that permit. And a lot of them will still work with you and let you use, your own subcontractors to get the work done, and then obviously work with them to get all the inspections and make sure everything passes appropriately. All right, and then it comes down to the fun part. So once you have a renovation plan, like I said, whether it's taking down walls, adding a bathroom, whether it's just leaving everything as it is and updating it all. There's been plenty of kitchens that, all the old cabinets come in and the new cabinets go up. And it's the same exact layout, but it looks a million times better because it's all fresh and clean and new. But either way, you got to come up with that plan. Whenever there's a basement, whether it's something we have to finish or something that's already finished and we're just updating, if there's no egress windows down there, I always make sure to put those in so that when we do go to sell, those are now conforming bedrooms with egress windows. I always like to not leave anything up for discussion when it comes to inspection or anybody looking at the house saying, "Oh, I wish it had this." That's why I really enjoy, being on the regular real estate side of things with the regular everyday buying and selling. So I know what my buyers are looking for, and I know what they're faced with when they're looking at the houses from sellers sometimes and things that are missing. So really helps us put everything together so that it's going to attract the most buyers. Um, so yeah, once you have that plan, it's a matter of finding the contractors to do the work, and choosing the finishes. So all the finishes, I always go for everything just light, bright, and white. I try to keep it as neutral as possible to keep as big of a buyer pool as possible. So that when it's done, anybody can walk in there and make it their own. A lot of times you'll go into some flips that were redone and people will kind of over decorate or over design, and it gets very specific. And although it might look beautiful, it might not be somebody's taste, and therefore it's diminishing your buyer pool. And I'd rather have more people interested in these houses than less. If you're looking at it for something from a rental perspective or going with that BRRRR method, maybe you don't mind not going top of line because you're not looking to get top dollar for the market, but you want something that's going to be sustainable through renters. So, maybe a carpet that's not as nice because it's going to get beat up, or um, go with a granite countertop instead of a quartz countertop to save some money because it's a little bit more durable. There's a lot of different ways to look at that depending on your goal. So once you get that all figured out, then it's just a matter of executing that. So, there's no right or wrong way to do this, as I've fumbled my way through several of these now. The first step's always the demolition. Is go in and take all the measurements that I need for kitchens, bathrooms, so I know all the cabinets, sizes that I need. I can create that design, measure all the doors so I know which doors I need, what size doors I need, which way they swing, just all those different things that most people don't think about when they're walking through a house. Get everything all done so that I can get, those items ordered that might take a couple weeks to get in, and then the demo guys can go there and start kind of gut the place or take out whatever needs to be gone. And then it just usually rough electrical, rough plumbing, get all those things done. So whether you're moving things in the kitchen or bathrooms, adding a bathroom, whatever it is, get all the rough stuff done. Drywall gets to be a bit of a headache. There's electricians that love to cut into drywall to move wires. So I always like to have that done on the front end, but it never seems to fail that after all that's done and I'll get the drywall guys in there, there's always another hole or two that need to be cut, and I gotta have them come back to repair it. But just try to feather that all together and make it as easy flowing as possible. But after that, usually jump into the bathrooms, get the bathrooms done. I do tile on the floors in there. New tubs, new shower pans, or a tile shower pan, and then new toilets, new vanity, all that. And then at that same time, usually whatever flooring is going in the main part of the house, anything that's not carpet. So I always go with the luxury vinyl plank, or LVP, for the flooring. It's the most durable thing out there. Even when you're looking at new home builds these days, almost everything comes standard with the LVP. It's pet proof. I mean, the product they sell at Home Depot is called Life Proof because it'll handle anything. So that stuff cleans up super easy. It's super durable. It comes in a million different finishes, so you can go with whatever looks best for whatever your goals are with that. So great flooring to put out there. Um, and then yeah, once the cabinets are installed, once all the doors and trim are installed, then usually the painter will come through and get it all looking good. And then usually do the carpet very last in the bedrooms or in the basement or wherever the carpet's going. And then, during all of this, as it's all going through, like I said, I always deliver all the materials. So I'm there on a regular basis and then meeting with contractors to get bids and everything. So, in a week, I'm probably at the house at least 5 days during that week, whether it's for 5 minutes or for a couple hours to help do a few things. But there's a lot of monitoring of the progress and planning for that next step. Another thing when you're thinking of appliances, there's a lot of places that are, 2 to 4 weeks behind on appliances. So getting those ordered early is always a benefit, so that you can plan that delivery date once you know the kitchen's going to be done and ready for them to go in. So just put some pictures in here, just kind of talk about a few things, just kind of mid renovation. This one on the left, we're actually in like a laundry or utility room, and then facing a bathroom. This one there is a little bit of water damage from the bathroom above it. So all that drywall needed to come down, which gave the plumber a good opportunity to replace a lot of that old cast iron plumbing with ABS, and then work on the drain in that upstairs bathroom, get that all rerouted, redid all the copper into PEX for the water lines, and then the electrician was also able to get in there and get rid of an old outlet that wasn't working and move a couple things around, before the drywall goes back on. So that's just things as going through there, and as the demo guys are there, it's usually good to be at the house during that because when you see some mold on the drywall or something, it's usually a good indication there's something else behind that wall. So it's worth it to have all that torn off at that moment just to kind of get a good peek inside and see what needs to be done. Then the one on the right, that's just a bathroom after demo. I always replace the toilets, but that one, the toilet was only a few months old in that house. So that one's actually just going to get cleaned and stay. But that one had a big tub in it too, and the tub was in good shape. So sometimes instead of replacing a tub, there's a lot of companies out there that'll refinish them where they come through and spray them, and they have a great warranty with that. So this one's good. There's no cracks, nothing wrong with it. And it'll clean up, but I put bright white tile in there, and now the tub, even though it's white, it looks almond. So probably get that sprayed, and spraying a tub is only about $300, whereas replacing that whole tub right there would be about $800 due to the size of it. So it's a little bit more cost effective to just leave that in place, get everything done, and then spray it. So it's just another option to think about rather than replacing things sometimes. Here's the inside and outside of an egress window that we added on a house last year. Um, you can tell probably just that little bit of where the concrete's cut there. That original window only went down probably 16 inches from the top of that. So these are cut down so that they're full egress size windows. They put the window wells in, all the standards that they have out there are pretty much based off of a full-size firefighter and full gear with their tank on and everything, being able to get down there and spin around. And that's how they come up with these parameters for how these need to be built in. So it's about $4,000, $3,000 to $4,000 depending, um, for the whole thing there, for the window well, for the cut, for the new window, and then to include, finishing off the drywall on the inside once it gets time for that. So always a good expense because you're passing along a safer home to whoever ends up buying it, and that's going to be a huge value add. This one here on the left is actually that same house with the egress window. So it had a wall on either side of that staircase going down to the basement. This one's a ranch. So to kind of modernize it and open that up, we made the kitchen stretch a lot bigger. On the far side there, that was like an eat-in kitchen area where you can see that kind of trim wallpaper on the wall. And we ended up putting cabinetry over there and everything. So it really expanded that kitchen. Then we put a modern railing around the stairs, and really opened up that whole area there. So the part that's still boxed in over the stairs, there's like a hall closet there, and then the pantry for the kitchen. So we didn't want to sacrifice those items just for the convenience of whoever ends up living there. But at the same time, it still opens it up and gives a more modern feel in the older house. And then the one on the right, this was a pretty big home. It had a bathtub where you can see that bathtub spout coming out of the floor, and then the shower, stand-up shower off to the right there. So we were able to take that whole area and just make a huge shower pan in there, and put the bathtub in there and have it all enclosed with the shower glass. Just gave a very nice, luxurious feel to it. And I don't know what it is about that, having the bathtub behind the shower glass so people can shower and bathe without getting cold in between. I don't know, but people love it. So that one turned out to be really cool. But a lot of times, like you can't really see it until you demo it. So once it gets into this phase here, it's worth taking some time and just thinking about some different plans for that, having some different people come by and take a look and just run some ideas through and see what might work best for that space. We just have some before and afters here. So this was a house in Broomfield from early last year, I guess. That top corner picture is the original look there. So it just kind of had some, it had renovated cabinets, but they weren't super nice and they were probably, 20 plus years old. So not as old as the house, but still not nice enough for a nice modern finish. So I also got rid of those, put in the white cabinets. Those floating wood shelves are always a nice touch. Those were Lydia's idea on that one, which she's very proud of. So I figured I'd say that. Um, but yeah, so that one just really gave a whole new sense and feel in that kitchen, refinished the wood floors that were in there, and looked like a whole new house. And there's a bathroom in that same house. This house had like 20 different colors on the walls, and all the bathrooms were original. You can't really see the floor in the updated picture, but it had concrete looking tiles on the floor, dark gray. And then obviously the light and white tiles in the shower, white vanity, white quartz countertops. So really made a huge difference in there. Same house again. This was the blue room, which we turned into a white room. So bedrooms are easy. All it is flooring and paint usually, so not too much to go on there. And then that's just a change in the primary bathroom in that house. There's a few more pictures of what I bought versus what I sold. So this was a house in Longmont that was a hoarder house, had a ton of problems, a bunch of mold in the basement because the water heater busted, and there was that much trash that you see up there down in the basement. So it was a lot of extra remediation to get rid of all that stuff. But that picture on the left, those two pictures on the left, the top one, you can kind of see how we modernized the floor plan there because you can see if you're looking far into that picture there, kind of that I don't know, china cabinet looking thing. That's all part of the wall that goes over the stairs into the basement. So when you look at the picture beneath it, that whole wall's gone. Put a modern railing up there, and it just changed the whole feel of that room and the whole look of the house. So you can see the differences in the kitchen there. It kind of had you can't see it in any of these pictures, but where that island is now is opened up between there and the fridge. You can get out to the hallway, whereas before there was a wall there, so that was opened up, and just kind of gave us a little bit more space for a little bit more cabinetry in there, and to go with the full-size appliances, get the whole vent hood in there, and have a built-in microwave in that island on the far side that you can't see. So a lot of different convenient features. If you look up top, you see the recessed lighting that we added in there, which is another thing to give more of a modern feel at a pretty low price to get that done. So it's always a good touch. This was a house in Arvada, but unincorporated Jefferson County, which this thing was in real rough shape, especially on the outside. So this one got all new windows, all new siding. You can see in that first picture, the exterior, the top one has a door in that little extra room there. The bottom one, we got rid of that door and just put a window in. And then all the way on the right side is the inside of that same area. So what was just kind of a storage area, we were able to make into conditioned living space by adding, the HVAC vents in there and just making it more of a livable space and really used as more of an office space than whatever it was. So then you can just see the kitchen there. I mean, kitchen's where the biggest bang for your buck is. That's what sticks out the most in pictures. That's what people want. They spend a lot of time in there, so it's always worth getting that as updated as possible, as usable as possible. So you can just see the difference there of what it was versus what it turned into. Um, and then that area on the back side there, that wall goes down the stairs, but in the third picture from the left, you can see how it just had some cabinetry there, but we were able to change that, put some pantry space in there for extra storage, and still has a little bar top off to the right there for just a little better look than what it was. So, and then this was a recent one. You can see here in the left picture, this was an original kitchen. You can see the drop ceiling up above. It's like you're in an office rather than at your house. So drop ceiling went away, a recessed lighting went in. That wall went away and turned into a half wall. So we have a peninsula there now with a countertop that stretches out a foot, so you can put bar stools on the other side and really just open that up big time. Um, this one, the color on the picture doesn't look good, but those are like a sage green cabinet. And then on the lower, and then with white uppers, and then some granite countertops in there. So really transformed that space big time in this house and gave a much more modern feel. All right, so I know that was a lot to throw at you there and didn't cover everything that's out there for options and everything, but there's a lot to talk about. So feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A there at the bottom of the screen. We'll get to those in a little bit, but Lydia and Sherry are going to share a few things that when it comes to marketing the home and selling it, this isn't specific to investment properties. It's really the same strategy that we use in all of our listings and for all of our clients, but they're going to go over some of the high points of these.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a lot of information. So awesome. Well, right now, if it basically at this point of the presentation, if you've done kind of all this work of getting the house ready and you've decided to sell it, that's where we come in. Obviously, our goal would be to kind of be there along the whole process. So from the very beginning, because then we're able to help you curate all those different improvements to, again, like Jim said, make sure that you're adding the things that people want, that we see on a regular basis that people want, as far as kitchen renovations, bathroom renovations, location, all those types of things. So, but if you have gotten to this point and you're ready to sell the property, this is where we can provide some extra value. So obviously, we're going to sit down and talk with you about the market conditions and what's going on in the overall market, and obviously specific to that little pocket, that neighborhood. Some other things that we really rely on quite a bit are migration patterns. So we can see specifically for Jefferson's County, we can see a positive influx of migration, and we can get really specific on that with some of the tools that we have, as far as zip codes, even neighborhoods where we're seeing positive or negative migration. So we have an idea of what is the response going to be when we take the property to market. We also have some tools with regard to being able to kind of predict how many showings we're expecting for that neighborhood and for the time frame that we're getting ready to list. So those are some tools that we utilize quite heavily to get an idea of what the response might be. If you've kind of gotten all the big things done, all the major improvements, usually as we get ready to go to market, there's still a lot of like honeydew items. So we're there to help you with that too. So we do offer concierge services. So that could look like helping you set up window cleaning, getting 3 bids for window cleaning, getting a construction clean set up. Obviously, the property will be staged. We'll be assisting with that as well. And we have an idea of what we need to stage, what we need to highlight for that particular home, especially if we've been involved in it from the very beginning. We already have ideas of exactly what we need to do as far as furniture, furnishings, and to what extent we need to do that depending on the price range. Once we get the staging done, we really take a lot of pride in just getting the home market ready. So staging is the very first step of showcasing it, but we're also going to do professional photography. We're also going to do videography. We're going to do aerial photography, drone photography. just to really help people get a feel for the neighborhood and what they're buying. So like, it's really easy to like look up a property and kind of get the basic stats, but to really get a feel for the home itself, and what it's like to live there. We've been doing a lot of lifestyle videos to help people kind of get a feel for like, this is what a day would look like if you lived in this house. And then the walkthrough videos are another thing that we really do, again, kind of with that lifestyle piece in mind, showcasing the floor plans of the property. I already talked a little bit about the aerial photography as well. And then another thing that Sherry's going to go into a little bit more detail with, but we have spent a lot of time this last year working with Zillow and a partner Showing Time Plus to showcase your listing. So in a traditional listing, you're going to be able to put it onto the MLS, and that's great. And Sherry can show us some examples of what that would look like differently with the showcase listing. But one thing is important to note is that only 10% of homes can throughout the Front Range area can be showcased. And so we are one of those partners with Showing Time Plus. So we will be highlighting your property through that as well. Sherry will go into like what that actually means, like what that does for you in just a minute, but that's another thing to just to highlight as well. In addition, as we kind of get through this process and we're ready to put your home on the market, like Jim mentioned, there's a lot of like things that, you know, we kind of don't necessarily know 100% until we take it to the market. So one of the benefits that we have really relied on amongst each other is that, you know, I can look at a property and I can get evaluation. Jim can look at the same one. Sherry can look at the same one. And between the three of us, you're kind of getting three opinions, and a team approach to helping you sell your home instead of just one single opinion on the price and one single opinion on what we need to do as far as marketing and your online presence. So beyond that, we have a lot as far as your online marketing that I'll go into in a second in the next slide. But we are going to be working to target market with pay-per-click, SEO. We do Facebook marketing as well. So those are other things that we can do where we can really target that area and highlight your listing to the specific area where buyers may be looking in. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, just like a little bit in a different realm, if you decided you got all this way and maybe, or maybe you took on the property and you wanted to rent it out or hold it. If you decide that you want to rent it out, we have property management contacts. So if you want to go that route and you've kind of gotten it ready, you've gotten it clean, you've gotten it, you know, average finishes, we can get you connected with a property manager if you want to go that route as well. So, you know, always open to be a tool and help you guys along that process as well. And then as we move to the next slide, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. So I kind of mentioned it in the previous slide, but when a buyer is looking to buy a home, they just, it's easy to get the basic facts, but we really want to tell the story of what that looks like. So that's why we're really big on making sure that the buyer is able to see that listing in a lot of different realms. So they're going to see it on social media, they're going to see it on the MLS, they're going to see it on Zillow, they're going to see it on an open house, they're going to see it on a FaceTime tour, or they may see it with a drone photography tour as well, where we maybe highlight some of the things in the area as well. So this rule here, the 7-11-4 rule, basically says that like a buyer, for them to feel comfortable with buying the house, they're going to want to spend 7 hours of researching that property, and they're going to want to be able to look at that property from 11 different angles, essentially. So they may want to look at it on Zillow, they might want to look at it on MLS. So it enables them to really see it in all those different ways. You know, some people may be more tuned into social media, so they may, you know, spend all of their time researching the property on social media, and somebody else might be a little bit more numbers focused, and so they'll really dig into the MLS stat. So, you know, we're here to help a buyer be able to see that value and really feel comfortable with the house from all those different angles. So that's essentially what that is, and kind of shows you some of the other areas that we're going to market the property to besides the ones that I mentioned. So from there, I'll let Sherry jump in.
Hello. Okay, so as Lydia was just kind of alluding to, this piece of it really, it's just there's not much different to it from a renovation side as it is from when we typically sell a home. So we are always going to be looking at those things, the 7-Eleven rule, making sure that the home is marketed well. For also one thing about selling is, and we're there all along the way, and we want to make sure that if you are getting your home ready to sell, that you're putting that money into places that is going to work for you. So Jim is really lovely. We can, and a great resource. Lydia and I usually back that up, just because again, we know what buyers are looking for. I had one couple that wanted to add a pool to their house, and it was like, this is Colorado. You don't need to add a pool. If you're not going to use it, no one's going to be looking for a pool. Well, I shouldn't say no one, because I do have one client that is. Anyways, so from a marketing standpoint, we are going to be doing our staging, our photography, as Lydia mentioned. And we really want to make sure we're showcasing, and especially when you're flipping, we want to showcase all that hard work you put into it. Some people don't do the staging, and the value of staging, I can't even measure. Well, I can measure it. There are numbers out there that homes that have been staged go for anywhere from 10 to 20% more than a staged home that's not staged. So the value is there and definitely worthwhile. As you can see, there's some before and afters. These are very simple changes. The first one, it's just the bedding that had just was not done very well, and we took off that red comforter, and I mean, it was very simple in this particular house. It was a beautiful home, just making sure everything's clear and clean, and minimalizing and decluttering. So these are homes that were lived in already, and so we were able to do those types of staging with them still living in the home. When we're staging for a flip, or when you've moved out, we're going to be looking at new furniture. We're going to be looking at how we can take a room and show the versatility in a room. So we may take a bedroom and make it an office if we think that's going to be important, because offices right now are very important. So if there's a 4th bedroom, or it's a 2-bed or a 3-bedroom, we may make one of those an office. But we want to expose the house for being able to show the versatility in it. As Lydia had mentioned, we are really, really proud of the fact that we've been able to partner with Zillow and for Listing Showcase. The Showcase video or listings look so much better on Zillow, but again, only 10% of agents are able to make their listing a showcase. So we're very proud of that, that they chose us. But the listing itself, when you're looking at it on Zillow, looks much better. There's another what we call a tour of the home, so that they're actually able to kind of walk the home and be inside the home online. So I'm sure you've probably seen it by now, where you can really just walk through. So that's part of it. The other nice thing about Showcase is if you've ever seen a email blast from Zillow saying, hey, check out this house, and it's showing from Zillow, those are all Showcase homes. So those get pushed out a little bit more through Zillow on top of everything else we're doing. So they look better. When you're looking at a map, they're starred, so it really shows up a little bit quicker, and they actually show as a showcase listing. So that's one thing that we've able to add to our listings that go above and beyond. So it's really kind of fun, and they are selling, and we're seeing the analytics on it. So we're looking at how many people are clicking, and it's 81% more page views, 75% more saves, and 79% more shares. So we are really seeing the value in being able to promote your home that way. And again, we are telling stories. There is a new format that we started using. It's called, it's a company called Studio, but it is definitely interactive storytelling. We're not just promoting your home. We're going to actually tell the story of your home and walk people through it and in a more of a story manner. The best way to describe it is you may see a video, you'll see people cooking in a kitchen, you'll actually see some of these things. So it helps people visualize their future home, and again, what it would be like to actually live in that home. So that's another add-on to our marketing strategy that we've been using. And again, sometimes people are saying, in the markets that we've had over the past few years, sometimes all this marketing, the home is sold in the first weekend. But we're going to be able to drive in those hot markets, we're able to drive more traffic and possibly get more multiple offers and drive that price up a little bit. In a market such as we've had the last few years, there is a little bit more of a slowdown in the sellers, and we're not seeing as many multiple offers, but all our listings are selling much quicker than the rest of the market. I had one gentleman call me today for a home selling the same floor plan 2 doors down. It was a really nice condo. He's priced it at the same price. He's marketed it a little bit differently than we did, but wanted to know why ours sold in 5 days when he's had it on for 3 weeks and has had 2 showings. So, our marketing strategy is working, and we can always go over that with you as well.
All right, so just to kind of wrap up everything, once everyth's done, we get on the market, we get an offer, obviously it gets inspected at that point. I guess we can also talk about inspections, if you had to pull any permits for anything, the final inspection from the city or the county. Once all that's signed off on, everything's good to go. But then the general inspection that comes in, always makes me nervous because I know everything about the house. And so when they tell me something's wrong, there's a lot of bad general inspectors out there. Let's just start with that. But there's a lot of good ones too. So just hope that you get a good general inspector from the buyer. And there's not a lot of back and forth to argue over who's right and who's wrong. But either way, usually I'm prepared for anything that comes up, that we'll get it fixed because it should have been fixed during the project. And if we miss something, we'll take care of it. And then, finalizing the paperwork, obviously, we deal with all that for you. And then, yeah, then it's just closing time. And then kind of looking back, like I said, kind of an after action report, looking at, okay, well, I think the main thing everybody always looks at is budget. Okay, I was expecting to make, with those numbers, when I talk about, buying the house at 70% of the ARV, that's for an ultimate goal of making about a 10% profit. So 10% of what that final sale is. So, if you're selling a house for 500,000, the hope is, the investor will make about 50,000 on that project. So, just looking at all those numbers, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's break even, sometimes people lose money, right? That's all part of the risk in doing this stuff. But there's always ways to look backwards and figure out where things went wrong rather than relying on a crystal ball and seeing what's going to happen. So, obviously that's good with anything you do in life, looking back and seeing, what I learned, what could I have done better, what could I have done worse, what went well, what went not so well, and just kind of help come up with your plan of attack for the next one. And that is that. So, again, if anybody has any questions, I don't see any in the box here. This is obviously being recorded and being posted. So if you're watching this at a later time and you're not watching it live, our contact was on there. So feel free, even in the comments, wherever you're watching this at, throw any questions in there, reach out to us, and we're happy to answer that and help work with you on anything that you want to, set a goal towards and make happen.
obviously everything too is super intricate, so, you know, if this is something that you're interested in, you know, reach out to us because you know, it's gonna be tailored to your specific situation. And then Sherry did a lot of talking about, you know, kind of the Curbio and the showcase, and if Alyssa has it pulled up, I was just gonna real quick before we jump off, just kind of show the difference of what that looks like. So you guys can get a visual of how that looks. So she's got the studio pulled up right now. As you, and Sherry might be able to speak a little bit more to this too, but as you go through the brochures and the pictures, you'll actually see movement through the picture. So it's a lot more interactive. Like you'll see people moving in it as well. It's not just a static frame, which is very similar to the showcase listing, is that it's not just a static page. It's a lot more interactive, not only on your computer, but also on your phone as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll jump over to showcase 2. As soon as that finishes up. And then I think Alyssa's still pulling up the showing time.
The showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all some really wonderful marketing tools that we have, and that we're able to. And when you've put so much effort into into flipping a house, it's really nice to be able to show it off the best way you can, and in as many ways, and get as many eyes on it as we can, and get that sold quickly, and again, hopefully with that profit you had in mind, if not better.
Yeah. Another thing too, as far as just like this whole process is it has been such a gift for buyers too. So like if they're able to purchase a home that's been newly renovated by Jim or whoever, you know, they're able to walk into something that's move-in ready. You know, they don't have a lot of extra expenses to think about versus you know, if you buy a property, needs some work, and you've already got it at a higher interest rate, and you already have a higher monthly payment, it can be a lot. So it's improving the neighborhoods, you know, one house at a time, and it's also just making it more available to the average buyer by making these improvements. So there's a lot of great things to be said about this process for everyone involved. And then obviously, as this is panning up, you can see the difference with the showcase listing. Again, like I said, a lot more interactive. You can see why people might be more apt to click and spend some more time. That's the thing, is they end up spending a lot more time looking through the listing, looking through the house on all the different avenues. Thanks, Liz. All right. Jim, thanks for being the expert on all this. You really crushed it, and I'm sure people will have lots of questions, probably one-on-one. But is there anything else that you wanted to add, or you
No,
all
that's it. Like I
you
said, I
all
know
kept it to 45 minutes,
I know we went over.
an hour 5.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of info, but like I said, we like to find any way that we can to provide value to our clients out there. So reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns.
And I just do want to highlight one last thing before we wrap, is that for buyers that are looking for that home, and that they're for their forever home or their next dream home, sometimes we can help get you a fixer-upper, and Jim walks through, I'll walk through, Little walk through, and really be able to help you envision what that house could look like with just a little bit more love and a little bit more upgrades. Jim's done a couple of them for my clients after they've bought the home that were just outstanding. They absolutely love them. They get what they want. It's kind of like buying a new house without buying a new house.
Yeah, super
Cool.
great.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your time.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Have a good night.